Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Tuesday, the 20th of February, 2024. My name is Carey Holzman, and I thank you all for joining me today. Today, we're back to reviewing some mini PCs. We had these put on pause during the Spring Festival in China as they celebrate the Lunar New Year and pretty much shut everything down for about 2 weeks and, well, a week to 2 weeks, depends on the company. And now they're all back to work as of yesterday. So we can get back to doing what we were doing. We didn't want to flood them with requests and questions while they're away on vacation. And then you guys would wonder why you're not getting a response or why the item you ordered hasn't shipped yet. So we decided it would be best to just procrastinate and wait until they're off vacation so that we can get back to showing you the latest and greatest offerings from, well, in today's video, Minisforum. Now, as you recall, last year, you might recall, we reviewed the tiniest little mini computer that had a surprisingly amount of power called the EM680. I think that's the name of it. And it was a Ryzen 7 6800U. They still sell it on the site today, but it's just a little super teeny tiny and designed for really gaming, to be honest. But there's been some advancements in that arena with the latest Zen 4 processor and RDNA 3 graphics. It's time for an upgrade from the 680 to the 780. And we're going to talk about that today. And yeah, if you want to save some money and your gaming demands are light, you don't mind being a generation behind, the EM680 is still available for sale to the best of my knowledge. First of all, let me thank our friends over at Acronis for helping support this channel. Have you backed up your computer recently? I hope so. I really hope you have. I don't care what software. I don't care how you do it, just so much as you do it. In fact, I probably care more about it than many people care about it themselves. Why I should care more about your backup than you do is still something I don't understand, except that it's quite traumatic for both of us when I get the phone call or the email asking how to recover from a complete and total data loss without a backup. Because the only way I know how is data recovery, and even that's not a guarantee, and it's very expensive and very time consuming. You know, you're upwards of $1,200 and above. Making your own backup means you can be your own data recovery service, and it means your recovery can always be 100% complete and be done in minutes instead of weeks. So it just makes sense to make your own backups and to do it regularly. How regularly? Well, you just got to ask yourself, if my computer died all of a sudden, would I be upset when I recover my data that I've added a bunch of stuff to my computer since that backup was made that will be gone forever? If the answer is yes, it's time for you to back up again. If the answer is no, well, then you can continue to wait until the answer is yes. It's going to vary for each of us and how we use our computer and how much data we add and the difference between the last time we backed up and how much we've done since then, and if you're willing to lose that. So Acronis makes it real easy. If you don't know how it's done, it's super simple. It's very affordable. We have a 30% off anything on the Acronis website coupon code. Link is in the video notes below the video, and you can even walk through the entire installation and make a backup click by click, step by step, by just looking here on the channel for our video, our most recent Acronis video. And it's got a free trial. If you let the free trial expire, you decide you don't want to buy it, that's fine. Keep the backup you made, because restorations of backups are always free. So even if your trial expires and 6 months from now, you need to restore your backup because something happened. And of course, when these things happen, nobody ever expects it. It's always going to surprise you. It'll always be unexpected and just from out of nowhere. It'll come from nowhere and then it's just gone. And you'll think, oh, I'm glad I followed that video that Carey showed me how to do with Acronis. I'll go get the Acronis software again, and I will restore my data from 6 months earlier, or however much time has passed. And of course, you will lose whatever you've added since then. That's the advantage of buying it and having it back up regularly. But that something is better than nothing. So the link's below for Acronis. Check it out. Decide for yourself. There's a free trial. No hard sell here. We'll have that discount available throughout 2024. Just keep that in mind. So if you don't have the money now, or you want to put it off a little bit, you want to roll the dice and gamble with your backups and your data, that's your choice. You want to wait till summer or fall, we'll still have the coupon code here for you. And also, our friends over at Instant House Call, that's the remote software I use to remote connect to clients, so I don't have to get in the car, get in traffic, drive in the 115, 120 degree Fahrenheit weather, deal with road construction and crazy drivers, just to click the mouse or type something on the keyboard. Not only do my clients have to wait for me to get there, but with remote access, I can connect in, get the problem solved, and disconnect without getting off the couch. And my clients get the problem resolved while they're still on the original support call with me. So it's minutes instead of hours. And that means customers get help faster. I can help more customers in one day. And the software is way cheaper than stuff like TeamViewer. And it's got all these tools built in. Instant House Call has tools built in for techs to use to help in computer repair. Now, you can still use Instant House Call just like you would any other remote software if you don't need all those tools. It's still cheaper than most. There are some free remote software packages out there, but they have no support. They don't do file transfers. There's a bunch of stuff they won't do. And Instant House Call does all that and more. If you want to see a walkthrough of how to download, install, and use Instant House Call on both the hosting side and the assisting side, or the being assisted side, Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call and I have gone through that entire process. And in fact, Corey is scheduled to be with us this Friday. So we'll take a look at what upgrades and features have been added to Instant House Call since the last time we've had them here. Another free trial of the software. If you're interested, check it out. Don't take my word for any of it. Decide for yourself. And if you're interested, be sure and use the coupon code that's available just for you guys. And then, of course, we have our friends at RoboForm, 30% off new customers, and VIP CDK deals. That's where you get Windows and Office keys. Once again, this is no high-pressure sales. This is all stuff I use. I use it every day. Every single thing I'm telling you about, I pretty much use it every day. Whether it's Acronis, Instant House Call, VIP CDK deals, I'm constantly buying Windows licenses for all these builds I do. I pay the same price you do. I use my coupon code like you will. I pay with PayPal. I get my code in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. It always works. They're guaranteed. It's all legit. It's all legal. Then RoboForm, I couldn't live without RoboForm. I have dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds of logins and passwords I can't remember. And I want them all different, right? For security reasons, you don't want to use the same one, or if somebody cracks one, they've got access to everything. So I use RoboForm. There is a free version of RoboForm that will just hold a little bit of information and you can't synchronize it. But the paid subscription of RoboForm allows you to install it on as many devices as you want. Put it on your tablet, put it on your phone, put it on your computer. It's all included in the annual subscription price. You'll see that it gets constant updates to keep it secure throughout the year. That's all. No additional charge. There's no nickel and diming from any of these companies, and I cannot stress that enough. You pay for it, and you are supported. They've got your back. Everything is guaranteed with RoboForm, Acronis, and Instant House Call. And then, of course, with Windows and Office keys, that's always a bit of it's very commonly scam related to people trying to scam them. And then other people are afraid they're trying to scam you. So there's a 30-day guarantee there that your code's going to activate. That's not to say they're not going to help you after 30 days, but if you buy the keys and then just hold them, and then you go to use them 6 months later and they don't work, and you reach out to them and say, hey, I bought this code 6 months ago. That sounds very scammy. It sounds like you're up to something. So my advice to you is wait until you need the keys and then buy them. And that way, in the rare circumstance that you should have any problem, you reach out to them and they're going to help you. I guarantee it. Now, if you find anything I say to not be 100% factual, and you are not getting customer service from any of these companies, in the rare circumstance that you have an issue, you reach out to me. Because in all cases, their customer service will take care of you. And if you don't believe me, or if for some reason there's a miscommunication and it ain't happening, then you reach out to me directly, and I will make it right. And I don't know any other YouTuber that stands behind their supporters the way I do here. Just like I do in my real life business for my real life customers, I treat you guys no differently. This is not a money grab. These are all useful products that I am trying to get you guys a discount on. And they're all things that I use personally, and I use them on a regular basis. I don't know what else to tell you. We get offers from companies that want to sponsor us, but if they're not products I use or believe in, or if I don't think they're useful to you guys or a value, we say no. We're not in it for the money grab. We're in it to help people. And if we can make a few bucks on that process, everybody wins. So there you go. Welcome in, everybody. Once again, good to see you all. And I'm kind of excited to get back to the mini PC reviews because it's been a couple weeks, given the Lunar New Year celebrations in China with everything being closed. We've had a little buildup of them over here that we need to catch up on. And so I wanted to start with one I was really, really looking forward to receiving, and I got it right before they went on vacation, and that is this EM780. This thing is just unbelievably tiny, and you'd think if it's that tiny, it's got to be slow. No, not at all. In fact, we're going to take a look at it right now, and I just want to scroll through the chat, make sure I haven't missed anything here. We'll shout out hello to our friend Frankie B, our friend Buster, our friend Oystein, our friend Gregory Howard. I don't know if they're in the chat, but a shout out to them because those gentlemen have been extraordinarily generous to the channel. And without them, the filler content that we make would not be possible. These units from Minisforum, they're sent to us in exchange for a review. There's no contract. I don't have to submit these videos to Minisforum for approval. That's why I shoot live. It's honest. And what I've started to do in order to save time is I make sure that everything works properly and get them updated so that we're not sitting here waiting on these updates in this slow internet connection at Studio B. So that's all I've done. That's just the full disclosure so you know exactly where I'm coming from. And the Minisforum EM780 is, again, going to look very familiar to the EM680, but the internals are a generation newer. And in the box, of course, we have a little card here with tips, a little caution about the not removing the CPU cooler. They use liquid metal on the CPU cooler. Minisforum does. And it has to be applied in a very special way. So if you take that CPU cooler off, it'll be almost impossible for you to get the liquid metal sealed properly. And what happens when it doesn't seal properly is it doesn't work efficiently and it starts to oxidize and will actually be worse than regular thermal compound. Working with liquid metal is no joke. And I strongly recommend you follow their advice and leave the CPU cooler on. Do not repaste this. You will make it worse. And then, of course, we have a little documentation, a little manual. Now, in the box, as we dive down in here, there is no Ethernet port. Like, there's no room to put one on this box. It's so tiny, we pretty much have ports nearly all the way around it. I think there's only one side, and that's where they found a place to put the serial number. Everything else is filled with ports. It's one of the downsides of having a small PC. So they've enclosed a USB-C to Ethernet adapter. So if you want to run a hardwire to it, you can. And it breaks it out to another USB-C so that it doesn't steal that USB-C away from you. It gives it back plus the Ethernet port, and that's included in the unit. Now, these units are typically going to be used wirelessly. It's just a 65-watt USB phone charger, essentially, that powers it. Believe that or not. And of course, it's included, and it looks just like your cell phone charger. It's just this little brick. This folds down for your plug. And then you have a typical USB-C to C cable. So you could use this to charge your phone. And here's the other thing. Let's say you've got a wireless keyboard and mouse and you connect this to Wi-Fi. You don't even need to use this charger. If you have a monitor with USB-C on it, and that monitor can output 65 watts minimum, 65 or greater, you can power this from the monitor, and that same cable will send video back up to that monitor up to 4K. So you have a single cable setup if you choose to use it. That's crazy. And when it comes to gaming, AAA titles at 1080 low settings will easily get you 60 frames per second. So this does a really, really good job at that. Now, I personally don't care about gaming. It's just not my thing. But I do care about how small and out of the way this is, how reliable they are, and how useful they are. They're very quiet, and they don't take up much desktop space. Many of my clients, they have a desk that's just jammed full of everything. This is nothing to look at. You know what I mean? It's not RGB. It's not a big tower with blinking lights. It's really subtle, out of the way. And at the same time, if you're checking email and browsing the web, the only thing slowing you down with this little guy is your internet connection. Just saying, that's how fast it is. Finally, in the box, we just have a regular HDMI cable. So again, you would not need the HDMI cable or the power adapter or the Ethernet adapter if you wanted the single cable use. If you have a modern monitor that has a USB-C power delivery, which many brand new monitors, it's quite common. And as long as it's delivering at least 65 watts, that's going to power this unit and deliver the video to the monitor on that one cable alone. And then with a little USB dongle, you've got your keyboard and mouse, and then hook it up to Wi-Fi. That's it. You're good to go. And in an office environment, that's incredibly useful. And in a home environment where people don't like all the cables, I know customers, especially elderly customers, that will buy a laptop and they put it on the desk and use it as a desktop and they never move it. I go, why did you buy the laptop? You spend more for it. It's harder to work on. It's not as upgradable. And they go, well, because I'm intimidated by all the wires. That's it. I mean, you hook up the wires one time, but people are people, you know? So here you've got that simplicity. You still have to hook a power cable up to the laptop. Well, you still need to hook a power cable up to this. And if that power cable is coming from your monitor, then you don't have to run a separate cable to the monitor. If you're using USB-C, it's that one cable. You're good to go. I think that's incredible. Now we're going to hook this up and we're going to demonstrate it. But first, let me take a look over at Minisforum's website to see how they're promoting it, okay? I want to see if what they say is... Now, usually the manufacturers are dead on whatever they're talking about. It's usually... there's nothing a reviewer's going to typically show you that's different from what the manufacturer is telling you. Although a lot of manufacturers leave out whether the NVMe is Gen 3 or Gen 4. They often leave out what size the NVMe is. Like, is it a 2280, a 2260, or a 22... What's the other one? Not 60. 42 and 30. There's different lengths of M.2 drives. Normally 2280 is the common one, but every once in a while, like in a unit this small, you can't put a 2280 in there. The NVMe drive would be physically longer than the unit is. So we obviously know from the size it's not going to be a 2280, right? So let's see what the manufacturer says about it, and we'll go over to their homepage here. Here we go. Shop Persian Rugs contributes $20 in our super chat. He says, I missed a few shows lately. I started an exciting new career in Class 3 soldering. Right on. Well, thank you, Shop Persian Rugs. We appreciate your support, and hopefully you're enjoying that, that new career. Now, as you can see, this page is identifying both the EM680 and 780, so last year's model and this year's model. If you take a look down here, we've got the 7840. That's the 780, right? 780, and you see the 780 here. And then on the right side, for less money, we've got the EM680 featuring the Ryzen 6800. And then further below that, you cannot buy this bare bones because the RAM must be soldered onto this unit. Once again, it is so tiny, a regular DDR module would not fit inside with a socket. There wouldn't be any room for the case would have to be wider. So you can order the unit with 32 gigs of RAM soldered on with a 512 gig SSD. No, that's an NVMe 2230. So those, I think, are made up to 2 terabytes. Or you can get a 1 terabyte 2230 NVMe from the factory. On the 6800 and on the 7800, it looks like that's the same. So there's going to be some sacrifices you make for the small package. Now, soldered on RAM isn't a bad thing. Soldered on RAM usually means the RAM is going to be good forever. Soldered on RAM is faster, and it's not as likely to go bad. On the other hand, you cannot upgrade it. On the other hand, I paid over $3,000 for a Samsung Galaxy Book 3, and the RAM is soldered onto that as well. Because if you want performance, you want that RAM soldered on. And if you want an ultra-thin laptop or an ultra-small mini PC, you can't have the socket in the module. It's got to be soldered down. That's how you can get that compact size. So for many of us like me, who cares? It's 32 gigs. If it were 8 gigs or 16 gigs, then I would say, there's a problem. Now, as we take a look at the specs here, we're seeing the 680 model here described. We're talking about the liquid metal cooling and why they don't want you to remove that heat sink. We've got a little size comparison compared to a cell phone, a keyboard. This thing is very tiny. And as we scroll through, again, this all seems to be on the 6800 and not the 780. You'll see that's how the RAM is soldered down. It is DDR5 RAM in both cases. TDP is just 28 watts. The most you're ever going to draw from the wall is, well, it's a 65 watt power supply. So obviously you can't draw more than that. There's the exploded view of the unit here. And as we scroll down, this is the ports that are included here, the 3.5 millimeter audio port, which will be your headphones, your microphone, or your headset. You have 3 USB 3.2 Type A's and a transflash card, also known as an SD card. I don't know why they've given it 2 names, but there you go. Supports the alternate power delivery, which is the USB-C, right? That's your power delivery, display port, and data transfer all happening on that one USB-C cable to a compatible monitor. 2 HDMI outputs. No, I'm sorry, 1 HDMI output and 2 USB 4s mean you can support 3 displays at 4K simultaneously. It's quiet. Unless you slam on it, you barely hear it. And even when it does crank up, it's really not loud compared to other machines I've heard. And when you consider the smaller the fan is, the faster it has to spin to move more air. The smaller fans tend to be the noisier ones, but in this case, it's really, really not bad at all when you really push on it. It's pretty much nearly silent, just idle. In the box, of course, the mini PC, the power adapter, the cable, HDMI cable, and user manual. So once again, this is all the 680, and we covered the 680 last year. Now, if I scroll up here, there might be a tab that I missed. Bear with me. Or the 780. Sometimes they have tabs right up here, and I miss them. That's what we're looking at today. Okay, so that's all last year. So this year, this is what's going on. I didn't mean to confuse you there, but we want to compare last year's to this year's. And they still sell last year's. It is just cheaper. So it's 4.3 times faster than an Intel N5105 processor. Again, we've got the DDR5 6400 speed memory. It is PCIe Gen 4 solid state drive, and that's going to be a 2230. See how little it is? It almost looks like a little Wi-Fi card. And again, being in this small of a package, it has to be. And it claims it can get upwards of 7,000 megabytes per second. Now, that's what the port can do. We'll see if the drive they put in there can do that. They usually don't put an expensive drive in there in order to keep the price down. We're back to that liquid metal again that has a very special application process. And that means if you remove the heatsink, you'll never be able to seal it properly. And the difference that makes in keeping this thing cool and how it's possible they made it this small. It's a very key factor. Once again, you look at the ports, they're very similar. The 3.5 millimeter port there for audio, the 3 USB 3.2s, the trans flash card, the power delivery one cable that I've talked about. Again, it's a lot of things are shared between the two models. We do have an HDMI port, and we have 2 USB 4 ports, once again, supporting triple displays 4K simultaneously, if that's what you want. And apparently the cat likes it. And a few more pictures here. They're the same because it's the same case. Here's what's in the box, more or less the same, except it includes this adapter to go to Ethernet, which is really nice. Now, there's no bare bones available here. Once again, the RAM is soldered on. So let me go back to, oh, I know, Minisforum has their own little video on YouTube channel here. And if we bring that up, it's 1/4 of a liter in size. So you know the mini PCs I show you, those are 1 liter PCs. The regular HP minis that I'm, like the giveaways that we do for the vets, those are called 1 liter PCs. This is 1/4 of that. So that is Minisforum's own promotional video. And if you're interested in their products and the new products they have coming out, and you want to be the first to know about them, be sure to subscribe to their YouTube channel. Barely anybody is. So they don't, it's a nice little hidden thing where you can, hidden source of information where you can get the latest information about what they're excited about and what they're promoting, because they promote early on their YouTube channel. And then after that, then they'll reach out to reviewers. And then after that, you'll hear about it. So if you want to be ahead of the game, subscribe. All the major manufacturers typically have their own YouTube channels, and they make typically real short promotional videos about their upcoming products. So, it's all free to subscribe. Take a look here in the chat, see what I'm missing. So address any questions that you have before we continue. Let me scroll all the way to the top. I see a bunch of friends in blue joining us on this public video. Nice to see you all again. Thanks for coming back. A lot of members in the chat. Always good to see the members here. Les Stevenson says hello from Toronto. John Williams mentions that he did buy a license from VIP CDK Deals that had an issue, but he reached out to their customer service, and within 30 to 45 minutes, they resolved it for him. That's what I'm talking about. You know, there's no risk here. There's no, if I'm promoting it, you need to know everything's guaranteed or I don't promote it. I don't know other YouTube channels that do that. They're just trying to sell stuff. If you have a problem, that's your problem. We're a community here. And if you have a problem with anything that I promote, or even if you have a problem with a computer, we're here to help you. We got your back here. I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. Alhej says that means my 200-watt phone charger will work. Yes, your phone charger will work. Just think, if you go on a trip, you could just toss that in your suitcase and use one charger to power that, to recharge your cell phone. I don't know, whatever else you got that's USB-C. Could be a shaver, a toothbrush, all that. You could just bring the one charger. Wouldn't that make packing and traveling so much easier? We're getting there. So many friendly people here in the chat. I was going to say friendly faces, but I guess I can't see your faces. Let's see. Martin says the 7840U is from 2023. Yes, you have to understand, the minute it manufactures, it doesn't just plop itself onto a designed circuit board, go into a box and packaging and get shipped across the ocean and put onto distribution for sale to then arrive. We just started 2024. You remember? It was 2023 just a couple weeks ago. So of course, in order for us to have this 2024 model, and you know, they do this with cars too. The next model year is designed the year towards the late part of the year before. So there's no, I'm sorry if you misunderstood how the industry works, but it is a really recent and new processor from AMD. And so if we were 3 days into January, and of course everything's going to be from 2023, right? We couldn't get it here. We couldn't manufacture it, design it, do everything I just said in 6 weeks. It's not possible. So this product recently came out and we had to hold back on it. As I mentioned, I had the product about right around the end of January. And so they asked us to hold the review because of the Chinese New Year. So just so we're clear, we're not tricking anybody or making any false statements. This is a 2024 model. Okay. Sometimes people are looking for something to nitpick. And it's like, I don't think you understand. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound contribution, joining us from Northern Ireland, says hello, Carey and Marlena. Oh, his mom passed. I am so sorry to hear that, Mark. Oh. You know, I am not good at saying the right things here because there is no right thing to say as far as I'm concerned. It's a very personal loss. And you'll be in my thoughts today for sure and this week. And I hope that if she was in pain, I hope she's not in pain anymore. And just try and find like I said, it's just try and find a positive side, but that's loss is loss. So sorry to hear that. Yeah, I know people try to look on the bright side. There's no looking on the bright side, really. All right, so let's power this thing on, and let me show you how it performs, and we'll see how it does. So we've got our USB-C cable, and we've got our USB-C, basically cell phone charger. And if I wanted to, I could grab the monitor out of the other room, set it up here, and we can just power it from that monitor that has USB-C power delivery. But I'm going to go ahead and just plug it in right here. And then we'll plug it into the USB port. Let me bring this up to the camera just so you get a close-up before I plug everything in. I want you to really appreciate just how many ports they have jam-packed on this little guy. Look how small this is. Okay, there's your front. There's one side. There's the back. Everything is just filled. And then finally, we have our serial number and an air vent. Screws underneath the rubber feet if you want to get into it. So pretty easy to get into. Oh, and on the top, we have, you can see the fan. And that's going to be sitting on top of the CPU. It's got a big aluminum heatsink on there, followed by that liquid metal cooling. And if I want to plug it into the network, first of all, for power delivery, to power this, we want to use the USB 4 port that's in the back. And we'll use the USB 4 port in the front for our Ethernet adapter. And you know what? Let me show you that Ethernet adapter up close. Once again, I'm afraid the detail gets a little bit lost in these tiny parts so far away from the camera. But you'll see it's logoed with Minisforum's name. And you'll see we have the Ethernet, and it returns the USB-C back to us that we're using on this side. So let me plug this in. So that's going to be our power. This will be our Ethernet. So we can, I don't have to put it on my Wi-Fi. Plug that in. Why is this not clicking? I use these cables so much I kind of wear them out. There it goes. And then we need a keyboard and a mouse. So we have that back here. Keyboard and mouse. This is going to be a regular USB type A dongle. So we'll just use one of these USB ports right here. This one will work. And then I need a display output. So that's regular size HDMI. I like that they're not using a mini HDMI because those cables, you know, who's got them? Well, Amazon does. But regular HDMI cables, most of us here have many of those. So I'm glad they stuck with the full size. And now, let me go to, let's see, we're going to go to HDMI input, and I will put myself in a corner, just like so. Now I'm going to turn it on. There's a little teeny tiny green light on the front. I don't know if you can see it. There's no sound coming out of this. Now, I don't know if you wanted to time how long that took to boot into Windows, but when I tell you this thing is fast, I'll let it speak for itself because it may be tiny, but don't underestimate it. Now, if you take a look, I've run a bunch of you know, the optimizations tools and Windows updates that I do on all computers, and I've done that offline, but that's all I've done it. And I've run Crystal Disk Mark on it already, so we don't have to wait for that either. So if I bring up the Crystal Disk Mark results on the included drive, these are our numbers. So, well, it can go to 7,000. They don't give you that high performance drive because they would have to charge more. And most people don't care. But if you're one of those people that does care, do know that you can swap that drive out very easily on your own. And you can buy a larger capacity, faster 2230 size M.2 NVMe and swap it out real easily. But for the rest of us, this unit, as I mentioned you can get it with 1 terabyte or 512. Minisforum sent us the 1 terabyte version. So we've got the big version here. And those read and write speeds, it's pretty unusual when you see a write speed that's a bigger number than the read speed, but it's nothing to shake a stick at, let me tell you. Remember, this is RDNA 3. These are Zen 4 cores. And when we take a look at the system properties, I'll find it. You'll see there's our Ryzen 7 7840U CPU with 780M graphics. Our 32 gigs of RAM, 29.7 usable because the onboard graphics needs to borrow some RAM from us. They say borrow, I say steal. Now, we do not have 23H2 right now. It's 22H2, and it's Windows 11 Home. All Minisforum PCs all ship with Windows 11 Home. It wasn't always this way, but they made an announcement a couple months ago to let us know that from this point forward, they didn't explain why they ship with Windows 11 Home. Now, most people wouldn't know the difference. It's not like you're getting more performance out of Windows 11 Pro. It's going to be the same exact performance. It's just BitLocker, virtual machines, remote desktop. You know, I wouldn't use remote desktop. I use remote software, and I wouldn't use the VM. I would use a VM software. I wouldn't use the stuff from Microsoft because it's all very basic, simple stuff. I don't use BitLocker, and I don't log into any servers, so I don't need the Pro version. It doesn't matter that it says Home. Some people, they have a hang up in their head because in the old days, when you had Pro, you had more features, you had greater RAM capacity, all this other stuff. Well, that ain't the old days anymore. So you could upgrade it to Pro, but you'd be wasting your time and money unless you need one of those 4 things I mentioned. So most people watching would not need that. Now, Windows 23H2 will be offered to us eventually. Like when I go to Windows Update, it could happen even right now. I don't know how Microsoft decides. Or I could force the issue by just doing an in-place upgrade with the installation media of 23H2, which again, not a big deal. The big moment for upgrade that came in through Windows Update is a much bigger update and adds more features than 23H2 does. What 23H2 really does is it restarts the support clock. But I don't know how many of you reach out for support, but it is going to be offered to us automatically eventually. So we can be patient and it'll just happen, or we can force the matter if it bothers you. So we do have some updates since the last couple of weeks when I fired this up originally. There's also the AMD Adrenalin software down here, and we want to make sure we're running the latest version of that. We can check to make sure. Anytime you're running an AMD-based computer, laptop, desktop, what have you, without the AMD Adrenalin software, you are not getting the most out of your CPU. So if you're happy with the performance, ignorance is bliss if you haven't put this on, because this will increase your performance. So highly recommended to grab the free AMD Adrenalin software. Just type AMD Adrenalin in Google and go through the installation process if you don't already have it, for AMD CPU owners only. Looking back at the device manager, the Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi 6. I know that. We look at the network adapters. This is a killer Wi-Fi, does that say 6E? It's really far away, guys, from my eyes. 6E. I stand corrected. It is a Wi-Fi 6E. And that little USB Ethernet plug that I just plugged in, that's made by Realtek. That's a 1 gig Ethernet. It's not a 2.5 gig. We are not trying to build the fastest computer. I'm sure that's not what Minisforum was trying to accomplish. I think they were trying to build the fastest computer in this size. And as far as I know, they've achieved it. I am not aware of another computer that runs anywhere close to this that isn't at least twice the size, if not even bigger. Like I say, at the least, it's twice as big. So I think what Minisforum has created here is unlike anything the competition offers. And if that's important to you, because it's important to somebody, you now have options you would not have had if you were strictly buying from a particular manufacturer. Those manufacturers can't touch this with a 10-foot pole. They don't have anything even close. So just keep in mind, Minisforum does a lot of their own designs. And as a result of that, they often get copied. And not always. Minisforum to this day has unique designs that nobody has copied. This happens to be one of them. And while you might find other small PCs, they're like little streamers. You know, they're not full functioning high performance PCs. This stands alone and unique in how much power they put into that size of a package. And I think that deserves some recognition because, quite frankly, it's impressive. If you are in my shoes dealing in IT for over 30 years as I have, I can't even begin to explain to you what's going through my mind when I see the power in this. When I opened the EM680 for the first time, I thought, here we go again with another N100. You know, I would not personally use an N100. I just wouldn't do it. And, you know, what do you expect for $100 or $150, $200 tops? The N100 is great for somebody on a budget that wants something Windows 11 compliant, and all they want to do is surf the web and check email, watch videos. But for the rest of us that actually have work to do, and you want the smallest available form factor, maybe you want to travel with it, or maybe you don't have much room on the desk, you don't have a whole lot of choice here. This stands alone, aside from its brother, the little brother of the 680. So if you're on a budget, consider the 680, because as I mentioned, when I got the 680, my initial thought was, oh, it's going to be a dog. I was wrong, and I was blown away. And just when you think you're blown away, and that's as good as it gets, a few months later, they announced the EM780, which makes it even more powerful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what they do next. Let me take a quick look here in the chat. If you guys have any questions for me about the Minisforum unit, I am happy to try and provide an answer if I know it. Again, you can game on this. 1080 gaming is very doable with AAA titles with that RDNA 3 graphics on there. I just want to look through your comments. I see you guys helping each other out in there. I love to see that. Nev Well says, I love how you can get so much computing power using so little electricity. A lot of Americans, you know, they don't think that way. The minute you get out of America and you get to places where people are more ecology minded or where electricity is far more expensive, can appreciate this thing idling at like 6 watts, which is like, I don't know, an LED light bulb. And it's not until you really start cranking it up that you start pulling the wattage. And if you really hammer on both the graphics and the CPU at the same time, knowing 65 watts is the maximum that that power adapter can deliver, you know they're not going to hit 65 watts. You realize that, right? So you're probably going to get within, I would imagine, a 7 or 8 watt, 10 watt headroom. So this thing probably maxed out is in the mid to upper 50 watt range at its peak at the most. That way you're not overdrawing the power supply, and then you'd have a crash. Paul O'Brien stops in. Welcome in, Paul. Good to see you, my friend. Sherry McFarland wants to know, do you think it would run Adobe CC software? Absolutely, yes. However, bear in mind, the level at what you're doing with the Adobe CC software, the performance of that, and how long, say you're, I don't know, maybe you're video editing. Any computer is going to run that software, any 64-bit Windows 10 or 11, actually Adobe might require 11 now, is going to run the software. Is it going to run it acceptably to your standards? Depends on which of the suites of software you're using and how you're using it. But the short answer is yes, it will. Will it live up to your expectations? Only you can tell me. If you can find one of these on Amazon, I haven't looked. You have 30 days to return it for any reason if you don't like it. But I would love to hear your opinions on it. If you're interested in it and you buy one, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Because everybody's experience and everybody's expectations are going to be completely different. And well, somebody might say, well, this thing doesn't compare to a $3,000 tower. Nobody ever said it would. Or they may not say it exactly like that, but that's effectively what they're saying. Well, compared to a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, that chip alone costs as much as this entire PC. So as long as you have reasonable expectations and you understand the amount of power, depending on what you're using now, this thing could be a race car compared to what you're using now. This thing could be a snail compared to what you're using now. Because I don't know what you're using now or how you use it, I have no idea if this will meet your expectations. It blew away my expectations. That's all I can tell you. I never thought a computer that small could run that fast. That's insanity. And it's only getting better. Just wait till you see the next one, next year. It's only going to get better. Since Minisforum has already shown us they have reused the case from the 680 and just upgraded the motherboard, I love that dedication. So that means there may be an 880 and a 980 going forward. That would be so cool. And of course, you can wait until the better version comes out, but then there'll be another better version if you wait, but then there'll be another better version if you wait, but then there'll be another better version if you wait. And then you'll die and you'll just never have it. So at some point, you've got to decide, I want to try it. And only by trying it can you determine if it's good enough for your individual expectations. And then I would love, once you have experience with it, good or bad, if you would come back and let us know to share your story. Yes, I loved it. This is how it runs in this application. Or no, didn't like it, send it back. This is why. I would love to hear that either way. Garfield says, am I correct that one can game on this mini PC? Absolutely. In fact, there are other YouTube channels that are running games on their reviews of this particular unit. And they got their reviews out prior to the Spring Festival, whereas I had to wait till after. So don't take my word for it. Go look at the other YouTube reviews of the EM780. And many of them are showcasing screen recordings of them playing games and what frame rates and what settings. So yeah, you can run AAA titles at 1080. And if you put it on low, you can hit on many games 60 frames per second. Now it might bounce around a little bit, right? It may not stay steady at 60, but it's doing it. And it's very, very playable for sure. But again, don't take my word for it. And whether or not Amazon sells it, just go to Amazon, type in EM780 and see if it's available there. I don't know. So how well it plays the games depends on what resolution you're trying to play at, which games you're trying to play, and how many monitors you're trying to use at the same time. David Collins mentions Counter-Strike 2 will do over 100 frames per second. That's an old game. This will play modern AAA games. It will do it on low 1080 settings. Now, granted, you could take it below 1080 if you needed even more frames per second. The fact that it can do it at all blows my mind. And 1080, I can't see the difference between 1080 and 4K. And maybe it's my old eyes. I have a giant projector where everything's magnified. And I thought, you know, the bigger the screen, the more likely I'll notice the 4K. Don't notice it. Looks exactly the same to me. So we all have our own eyes and we all have our own preferences. So again, if you're interested in it, purchase one. If you can get it from Amazon, you'll have that 30-day return window. I think Minisforum also has a guaranteed return, but I'm not quite sure how their process works. I only mention Amazon because I'm familiar with it. And I send things back that I don't like, and Amazon's never had a problem with it. David Collins says Counter-Strike 2 just came out a few months ago. Well, I guess I need to crawl out from under my rock. I think I was thinking of CSGO. Thank you for that. I don't know. Again, I don't game, but Counter-Strike is an old game. I'm surprised that they're still developing it. So I appreciate the information. Nev Wells says they pay 30 pence per kilowatt at the moment. So having a machine that's consuming low power can make a significant difference in the electric bill. And again, here in the USA, we have it plentiful and cheap, comparatively speaking. And quite often, you know, as Americans, we only think of ourselves. We don't, if we think of other places, we think they're just like us. But no, there's very different cultural differences and different regulatory agencies and different taxes and, you know, healthcare, something Americans don't get, not without paying for it themselves, and it's grossly overpriced. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the politics, and don't get me started on the whole import and export fees and tariffs that countries individually choose to impose on others. So yes, I try to keep that in mind. I try to keep other countries in mind, even though I really haven't been to any of them. I go off what I hear from you guys and try to keep that in mind, throw that in there. For most Americans, they could care less how much power this uses. Although there are a few that care, most don't. Will it play Crysis? Yep, it'll play Crysis. David Collins says he has a UM780. That's not an EM, just a, okay, UM780 that does map data processing and light machine learning, Docker, and virtual machines. Woo, nice. David Collins wants to know if I got an MSO1. You must be new here, so if you want to look through the library, you can see our previous reviews. And we did review the MSO1. Also, another great review of the MS-01 was done by Serve the Home. It's a great YouTube channel that mostly does business class machines, but we do have some overlap. He's also got a studio not too far away from me. And he's a great guy, Patrick, and a very different review style. You know, he's not testing games out on anything. And he went through some of the details that I wouldn't go through with regards to business use cases and examples and testing in the MS-01 that I think is very worthy of watching, along with my review too, of course, because we do two very different review styles, and it's almost like two sides of the same coin. And that way you're able to get a better idea with the combination of information from him and from me, and any others you choose, to evaluate that for yourself. Chris Johnson said the EM780 is available on Amazon at $7.99 with a $160 off coupon. So $7.99 and then minus $160, so it's $640 is $639, which I think is the same price as what it is on Minisforum's channel, isn't it? Not their channel, on their webpage. Come on, get me out of this page. How much is it here? $639 for the 1 terabyte version. If we drop to the 512, why is the price not changing? Oh, $619. So if you want 32 gigs of RAM and 512 gig SSD, it's $619 direct from Minisforum. Yeah, Minisforum says that, by the way, it's only an extra $20 to go to the 1 terabyte SSD. You might as well. And Minisforum says it's a $799 manufacturer's suggested retail price, and they're taking $160 off, the same as Amazon. So yeah, you're looking at around $620 to $640 for a brand new warranty, top of the line, latest and greatest mini PC. Now, if you want to buy last year's model, you can save a couple $100. You're down around, say, for 32 gigs of RAM and 512 of storage, you're right in the mid $400, $470, $469. That's extraordinarily reasonable. Do this. If you think that's expensive, try and build this computer, either one, the 680 or the 780. Buy the case, buy the power supply, buy the motherboard, buy the cooler, the CPU, the RAM, and the storage, and then pay for the operating system to go on it. Also pay for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, or buy a motherboard that has that included. That's going to be about $200 just for the board. You're looking at around $300 to $400 for the processor. You're looking at around $50 minimum, probably a little bit more than that, probably closer to $90 for the RAM, depending on the RAM you buy. You're looking at, let's say the cooler were included, so that when you bought the CPU, but you still need a power supply, you still need a case, you still need an operating system. That's a bargain any way you look at it, and you don't have to do any of the work. It's already done. Not to mention, you'd have to buy a storage device. You'd have to buy an SSD. So that'll easily get you up to around $800. You're nearly at half the price of doing it yourself. I mean, it's a heck of a deal. All right, now go back over here and see how our updates are doing. Now the updates are going to be slow because I'm on a slow connection here. I can't emphasize that enough. And then this update, this cumulative update, is a big one, and that's installing and almost done. And David Collins mentions, if you're only doing desktop use, the last gen would work great. Any light gaming, do the 7840U. The Zen 4 architecture has a huge boost in graphics. This is verifiable, factual information. And if you're interested in that, I would recommend you do a little bit more research if you're new to this information to make the right decision for you. I'd hate for you to spend more money than you need to when something of less expense would suit you just fine. Either way, they're both brand new and fully under warranty, and Minisforum has been around a very long time, and they're an innovator in the mini PC space, a leader in the mini PC space. They're not some weird company you've never heard of before. Well, they might be a weird company you've never heard of before, but they're an industry leader in the mini PC space. I guess that's the best way to say it. Now, let's see, Starshine posts a link to the UK page. The Minisforum has a UK store. I'm showing you the American, the .com, and Starshine's posting a link to the .uk website for Minisforum. So use which one is appropriate. And I haven't heard this thing the whole time it's been running, doing all these updates. If there's a fan running, and I'm sure there is, it's very, very quiet. And again, if I were to slam on this and, really push it hard, which again, most people wouldn't do that consistently for an hour. But if you were just doing a normal, say you're playing a game and there's sections of the game where it's more CPU and GPU intensive, you're going to hear that fan ramp up, and then you'll hear it cool back down or slow back down again as it cools down. Minisforum's just nailed the cooling with their liquid metal application and the way that they're doing it. And again, that's why they advise you, do not separate that heatsink from that cooler, or you're going to break that seal and you'll never be able to seal it right. You don't have the tools for it. They have special equipment they use. So you could remove the liquid metal and use regular thermal compound, but it won't be running as cool as it's running from the factory. So if you want it to run as cool as possible, leave it alone. Don't try and make it better. You will only make it worse, guaranteed. It's really designed to be taken out of the box, plug it in, and get your updates and start using it. The Windows 11 Home is already installed. All you have to do is go through the out-of-box experience by setting up that final set of questions about your region, language, and username, whether or not you want to use a Microsoft account. It's all very, very simple, and everything's done for you, so you don't have to do that. Now, if you wanted to put Linux on it, you certainly can. If you wanted to make it a Steam box, you could totally do that. I mean, this thing's smaller than a game controller, for crying out loud. And it's got all of this capability. Now, don't mind me, I'm going to grab a cold Gatorade. Now, again, if anybody has any questions regarding the Minisforum PC or mini PCs in general, I'm here to answer them. Certainly our wishes with our friend Paul O'Brien and Mark Gaines, both dealing with some sadness. Just let you know that we've got your back here. We certainly understand when you need to take some time and be with family at this time. It's very important. And of course, kind of consider us a big family here too. So don't stay gone too long. But yeah, take whatever time you need to mourn and to be there to support others and to get the support you also need. Because we quite often, while we give support, we also are humans that need support too. I'm not seeing any more questions, so we might wrap this one up early. We still have a couple other mini PCs to get caught up on. And I might get to one or two more of those this week. I'm anxious to get my hands on them, as you can imagine. I wanted to do them 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't. Well, could have, but I was being respectful of the Chinese holiday. I also have a QNAP NAS I want to review. I have some other business class HP, Dell, and Lenovo tiny mini micro PCs. And I want to compare them, one HP to another, one Dell to another, one Lenovo to another. And I'll likely do that in 3 separate videos. Otherwise, it's going to be a 6-hour long video. But these are the business class machines, very commonly seen here as giveaways to the veterans, but these are just newer versions. They're Core 10th gen, Core i5s and Core i7s and Core i9s. And also, surprised me to know that AMD makes AMD-based 1-liter business class mini machines. And the reason I want to bring awareness to these is they can be often found off lease for sale on places like eBay and Amazon for a fraction of what they cost new. And so if you're on a budget, let's say you've got $200 to spend and you need a new computer that will run Windows 11. The giveaways that we do, those are $100 off-lease computers. They're several years old. They're 6th gen Intel. They will not run Windows 11. They're not Windows 11 compliant. You need an 8th gen or newer Intel chip, at least in the Intel world. And I did mention to you that if you just wait, those 8th gen chips, as they age, they're going to become more affordable. Right now, you can buy an 8th gen HP mini off-lease business class computer for under $200, and you've got your Windows 11 compatibility. It'd be an i5 8500T. Whether or not it comes with a storage drive or with Wi-Fi varies based on the seller. Sometimes the sellers strip that stuff out. Other times they don't. Sometimes they don't include the power adapter. And some sellers will want $10,000 because they're jerks. And some sellers will sell it for $100 or less. So shop around. And, if you don't need it today, visit the site daily because new sellers show up. And when the new seller has something and, they've got good feedback that shows they're not a scammer, that they have a history on eBay, that's a pretty safe purchase. And you can find some really good deals if you're patient, put it on your watch list. eBay will email you anytime a new one shows up because when they show up and they're a really good price, because there's so many buyers on eBay, so many shoppers, it'll go quickly. And then if you want to pay the middling price, that'll be the price you see the most often. And then there'll be some jerks that are way overcharging. So I don't want you to get taken advantage of. But I think that would be better to get, say, an HP mini business class PC that's a 8500T Core i5 and put Windows 11 on it for under $200 versus going and buying a brand new, say, N100 class PC. You'd get a much better PC out of that mini HP, or HP mini, I mean to say. The HP mini is super reliable, easy to work on, lots of upgradability on it. And you're going to be buying it locally. So a lot of the mini PCs, they ship from China. Sometimes support can be frustrating, the language barrier and the time barrier. So if you're on a budget and you're looking for a Windows 11 compliant PC, start at 8th gen and go forward from there. And as we get closer to the end of Windows 10, which isn't for another year and a half, you got plenty of time. This time in 2025, this time next year, those 8500 off-lease minis will be probably closer to $100. So I want you to think about that. And those 6500 Ts that we're using today, they're going to have a hard time selling those because that'll be for people that want Proxmox servers or Linux, home lab stuff. You won't, once Windows 10 expires in October of 2025, and certainly at the beginning of 2026, you're not going to be wanting to run Windows 10. And if you have a machine that's not Windows 11 compliant, and you put it on the internet anyway and ignore it, it's your identity. You know, it's your bank that gets emptied. It's your credit that gets ruined, potentially, not mine. I can't tell you how important it is to put a supported operating system. I don't care if it's Linux. I don't care if it's Mac. I don't care if it's Android. It's got to be supported, or you are jeopardizing yourself, your identity, your money. All you've got to do is Google identity theft or hacking. It gets worse every year. All the people that live in denial that it's not going to happen to them, they all say the same thing. Oh, it's true of people in jail too. They were never going to get caught. And yet look how full the jails are. Do you want to be one of those people? It's your choice. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to help you. So if it were me and I had $200 to spend max, maybe just between 100 and 200, I would rather buy an off-lease HP Mini 8th gen or newer than buy an N100 from anybody. That's just me. That's my personal preference. There's PSC Computers Missouri joining us, and contributes $10 in Super Chat. Thank you for that. PSC Computers Missouri says hello. John Famlor says, am I supposed to make sure the seller says the used Mini has a Windows activation already in the BIOS? If it comes from HP or Dell or Lenovo, the sellers don't know in most cases. The sellers aren't technical people. The sellers are people that are just moving equipment for a profit. They're in it for the money. With few exceptions, don't expect sellers to have any technical info. As a technician, all HPs, all Lenovos, and all Dells will have the keys embedded in the BIOS. And so all you have to do is install Windows. Now, you make sure that, you know, if you install Windows 11 Home and it doesn't automatically activate, that's because the onboard key is for Pro. And if you install Windows 11 Pro and it doesn't automatically activate after visiting Windows updates, then it's a Windows 11 Home. Even if it came with Windows 10, that still auto-activates Windows 11 without a key. And in a worst case scenario, you buy a Windows 10 Pro key right here from VIP CDK deals. It'll cost you less than eating lunch at Arby's for one person. That's how cheap they are. They're like $16. That's a worst case scenario. But no, a lot of times they don't include the OS because they don't want to support it. They're not technical people. They just want to sell it. It's your problem now. So, and when they do sell it with storage, a lot of times it's slow mechanical, you know, a 320 gigabyte mechanical drive, which is going to make the computer so slow, you're going to want to rip that out and replace it with an NVMe drive, or at least with a solid state drive. And when you do that, you'll need to reinstall the OS. But all Dells, all HPs, and all Lenovos have embedded BIOS codes. And most sellers could not tell you if they did or they don't. Again, most sellers on eBay are not technicians. I've never in my life bought, and I've bought, I don't know, how many little mini PCs have I bought off eBay these last 2 years? 60? I think we bought about 60 of them. I've never had to pay for a license code on any of them, just FYI. And that includes Dell and Lenovo. So what you want to watch for is whether or not it has included Wi-Fi. They all don't have Wi-Fi included. Sometimes they don't even say, they don't even talk about it. In that case, you want to, if that's important to you, you're going to want to email the seller through eBay and ask them if it has Wi-Fi. They should be able to answer that question. And then look and see if it includes RAM. You should get at least 8 gigs of RAM, and that's plenty. Honestly, for these little computers, for under 200 bucks, 8 gigs, you're going to be scooting along just fine with an SSD and 8 gigs of RAM and Windows 10 or Windows 11. Just, yeah, you will be very impressed. And then if you're If you're able to free up some more money later on, it's very easy to upgrade the RAM. You put 16 in there, 32 or 64. Super easy. No tools are required. You can do it all with your hands. Those machines are so easy to work on. And again, that's true of the Dell Minis, the HP Minis, and the Lenovo Minis. They're all same in that regard. I think HP makes the best, with Lenovo making the second best and Dell making the worst. So if it were me, I'd be shopping for an HP branded off-lease HP Mini. Jason wants to know, is Chewy a reputable company? Well, I'm not a fan of Chewy, if that's what you're asking. Whether or not they're reputable, I am not in that position to make that declaration. But if you're asking me, would I buy a Chewy computer? No, I don't think I would. Scott mentions there's supposed to be paid updates for Windows 10. Microsoft, there was a representative that said they were going to offer paid updates. And usually Microsoft does that for companies only, and it's $100,000 and whatever. It's not for home users. And I guess he said it would be for home users, but that's all he said. There was no details regarding price. And Microsoft has never done that before for any operating system. So I think the guy didn't know what he was talking about, and they never talked about it since, at least from the information I have. If you have different information from Microsoft officially, let me know. If in fact that turns out to be true, and offering people running Windows 10 the option of paying for ongoing support becomes a reality and it's affordable, then obviously if you choose to pay that money, you can continue to run Windows 10. As I mentioned, I don't have a crystal ball, and I have no idea what Microsoft is doing or what they're planning on doing. But I can tell you that if you're going to connect to the internet, and I cannot stress this enough, you need to be running a supported operating system, or you will likely pay the consequences all these other people have paid. And I don't want that to happen to you. But I can't stop you from running out in traffic if that's what you want to do. When that information becomes available, I will certainly share it with you. But that's unprecedented. Microsoft has never done that. And I'm very skeptical that that's actually true. I would like to be wrong. I would, because there's a lot of Windows 10 computers out there that are still running fine. But for Microsoft to charge people extra money for ongoing updates and support, I just got a feeling a lot of people aren't going to pay it. Even if it was 50 cents, a lot of people would not pay it. And then they'll continue to run their Windows 10. They'll be confused, thinking that, the extended support applies to them, even though they didn't pay for it, because they won't understand the information they were provided. And then they'll have their identity stolen. Something's going to happen. And then they're going to cry foul that they're a victim and blame Microsoft. Let's see, Alhaj provides us a link here from Microsoft. Let's see what that says. Extended Security Updates Program. The Windows 10 Extended Security Updates Program gives customers the option to receive security updates for PCs enrolled. It's a paid program that provides individuals and organizations of all sizes with the option to extend the use of Windows 10 devices past the end of support date in a more secure manner. Individuals and organizations who elect to continue using Windows 10 after support ends on October 14th, 2025, will have the option of enrolling their PCs into a paid ESU subscription. The ESU program enables PCs to continue to receive critical and important security updates through an annual subscription service after support ends. To be eligible to install updates from the ESU program, you must have Windows 10 22H2. It will not include any new features. It will not include any customer requested non-security updates. It will not change the design or upgrade Windows 10 in any way. General support will not be provided. Support will be available only to organizations that purchase ESU for specific situations concerning the security updates only. To get technical support, organizations, not individuals, but organizations must have an active support plan in place. How much will it cost? Final pricing and enrollment conditions will be made available closer to the October 2025 date for end of support, approximately 1 year before the end of support for Windows 10. October 2025 is not 1 year before. That would be October 2024. Oh, maybe I'm misreading this. Let me read it again. Final pricing and enrollment conditions will be made available closer to the October 25 date for the end of support date, approximately 1 year before the end of support for Windows. Boy, they really found a way to convolute that sentence. It looks like what they're saying is somewhere between October 2024 and October 2025, they will release the pricing information. If you are a Windows 365 customer, not an Office 365, if you're a Windows 365, it will be free. There is no minimum license purchase requirements. So not usually, it is a standard operating procedure for Microsoft to only offer this to companies that have, 1,000 or more computer licenses. So that's why individuals couldn't buy it. So this is all brand new territory here. And thank you, Alej. I had not seen this, but it is official. It is from Microsoft. Can you purchase the extended service for just a specific period of time? No. Extended security updates are transacted in a 12-month period starting with the end of support date. That's it. You can't break it into 6 months or 3 months. Whether or not you use it, that's up to you, but you will be paying for 12 months. So again, the offer will be available. Now they're a little clearer here. Windows 10 ESU will be available in volume. Oh, I see. In volume licensing starting October of 2024. How long can you get updates? Enrolled PCs belonging to a commercial or educational organization can receive security updates for a maximum of 3 years after the end of support. So that's October of 2028. No technical support is included. Will Windows 10 PCs stop working without the ESU offering? Windows 10 computers will continue to work, but they certainly recommend customers upgrade eligible PCs to Windows 11 using Windows Auto Patch, Microsoft Intune, or transition to a new Windows 11 PC for the best, most secure computing experience. Customers also have the option to migrate to the cloud and subscribe to Windows 365 to make Windows available to users on any device with a cloud PC. Beginning October 14th, 2025, Microsoft will no longer provide the following for versions of Windows 10 that reach end of support on that date. That is, technical support, gone. Feature updates or new features, gone. Quality updates, including security and reliability fixes, gone. That is a fantastic link, and we'll see if we can add that to today's video notes because, once again, it's official. And that was provided and written on the 5th of December of 2023. So just about 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. Right on. Good to know. Finally, some official information. Still vague. It may be cheaper to just buy a new computer. We'll see what the pricing is. Mats Olof contributes 100 Swedish kroner. He says, hey, Carey, for some reason I haven't seen your stream in a while, but today it worked. Almost. In other words, a long time ago, but I've seen the replays. Well, thank you for the contribution, Mats Olof, and thank you for joining us. I don't know why I didn't see the streams. every Friday we are live at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So, and if we broadcast during the week or on the weekends, we typically also have the same start time. So if you're ever curious, because I'm not sure what the time zone difference is there, but just pop into the channel and hit the live tab on YouTube for, when you go to this channel, there's a live tab, and see if it's broadcasting if your subscription notifications aren't working. And do that right around or a little after 12. Starshine wants to know, what's the sales tax rate in the USA? Starshine, there is no sales tax rate in the USA. There is a sales tax rate that is unique to all 50 states. Some states have no sales tax. Other states have a low sales tax, and other states have an extreme sales tax. There is not one. It is defined by each individual state of the union to determine what their expenses are, right? So California, New York, these areas, these are going to have high sales taxes. And areas like Oregon, Las Vegas, I think there's a couple other states on the East Coast that have no sales tax. Sure. John Famler mentions on the HP Mini PCs, they have an option of a mechanical or 2.5-inch drive caddy. And sometimes the sellers that are selling these off-lease computers will include that caddy, and other times they don't. I would just throw an NVMe. I've stepped away from 2.5-inch drives personally. If I want a 2.5-inch drive, I plug it into a USB port. That's how I use them today. Whether they're mechanical or their SSD. I don't put them in. They're too slow compared to NVMe drives. And NVMe drives are quite often cheaper. Go figure. John Williams mentions he just got his taxes done and they were using an HP Mini desktop PC sitting right in plain sight. These are business class machines. They're no joke. These aren't the kind of things that they sell to consumers at Best Buy. They are far better built and they are held to higher standards, and they cost a lot more money than, when they're new, than the stuff that consumers buy new. So getting this off-lease stuff from businesses, it's all superior equipment that businesses use. And like I said, they pay a lot more money for it. So when you can get it off lease, in my opinion, as a service technician, you're getting a far better built, far better performing, and far more reliable computer than the junk they sell to consumers. Ryan says, why can't we just have a Windows that is supported forever? Well, you can blame the hackers, the people that are stealing. Ryan continues, it's almost like Microsoft is only in business to make a profit. James Prezi says, that's great, important information, Carey. Thank you for sharing. Well, thanks to Alhedge for sending us that link. Mara says the link has been added to the notes, so it's right there for all of you to click on. Starshine says, thanks, Carey. If you order something online from another state with lower tax, you have to pay import tax. No, there's no import or export fees from one state to another, only from one country to another. You pay the sales tax of wherever you're receiving the item. So if I buy an item from Amazon and it's being shipped to Phoenix, I pay Phoenix City sales tax. If I buy an item from Amazon and I live in a different city in Arizona, then I pay the state sales tax and the city sales tax. If I live in New York and I order from Amazon, I pay the New York state sales tax and individual city sales tax of where the item is being shipped, and it's calculated automatically by Amazon, but required by law. And then that money is then given to the government. And then it'll be given to the state government and to the city government. So typically the city governments are only going to be like a 1%, 2%, or even sometimes less than 1%. And then your state sales tax can be, anything from nothing to 11%. Those two numbers are added up, and it's calculated based on the destination. But there are no import or customs unless you're leaving the country with the package. David Graham says, time for a new tea party. I mean, you're not wrong. Bull142 wants to know if he can buy a mini PC that'll mow his lawn. I bet you could build a Raspberry Pi that could do it. Ryan says, I kind of don't like Microsoft having the power that it does. Well, no one requires you to use Microsoft. You're purely doing so voluntarily. Always remember that. You're making the choices. You absolutely do not have to use Microsoft. You can go to Mac, go to Apple, you can go to Linux, you could go to Android. You're not locked into Microsoft except by choice. All right. Jason wants to know if I have any favorite brands of mini PCs as far as quality goes. Of course, yes. Minisforum is right there on top, not only for quality, but for originality, right? To give us something different. Why is this still installing? Is it stuck? Sorry, I'm just realizing that's been there for a while. We're not locked up, are we? No, that still works. That is taking a toll. Wow, that is a big update, apparently. I don't know what the heck it's doing. I do have a preference. So when it comes to buying mini PCs that I will put into play for, let's say, a business client, I'm going to look for a NUC. So my clients, many of my clients run original Intel NUCs. Let me go full screen. Give me a minute here. Here we go. So the Intel NUC, I think, is the thing to be measured against. And when you look at Geekcom, their machines are very similar to the original Intel NUC. So are Simply NUC. These are also quite expensive, but they're expensive because of how well they're built. And they're also great quality, in my opinion. We've compared the Geekcom, the IT11, to the NUC at the time when Intel was still manufacturing NUCs, side by side, and they were almost indiscernible. If you took the label off the front, you would know which one was which. ASUS is now the licensed manufacturer of NUCs and will be the supporter of the NUCs, but it's a non-exclusive license, meaning that Intel still owns it, and other manufacturers may choose to license the NUC naming from them as well. When it comes to just, again, the machines that I would buy for myself, Minisforum is going to be right there, right up there with NUC and Geekcom. But Minisforum is going to be the only one of them that really innovates. Intel started innovating the NUCs, making them this big so you can put a full-size graphics card in them, which to me isn't a NUC anymore. So I'm kind of glad, that Intel's sold that off, because quite frankly, they were just getting bigger, whereas Minisforum's going the opposite way of anybody, quite frankly. And of course, B-Link has some great offerings. Despite the hiccups in the road with Ace Magic, for the price, I think that you can get a really good value, but I don't think you're getting the best mini PC. But I also, I know with the recent issue that they had with a contractor, that's been resolved. And Samsung TVs were spying on people. Sony CDs had viruses on them. There are much bigger companies that went through something on a bigger scale of customers than Ace Magic, and yet, that's the outrage of the week. But be that as it may, if that scares you, stay away from it. It's fine. But I can tell you that you can get a good quality machine from them much cheaper than anybody else. And there are manufacturers, in my opinion, that are ones I would stay away from. I would not stay away from Ace Magic. That stuff didn't concern me. It was momentary. In 6 weeks, everybody will forget about it. Just like they did with Sony, and just like they did with Samsung TVs listening in on you. And, oh, we forgot about all that, right? So I'm not worried about that. That's done. But other companies, I'm a little skeptical of. I've been impressed with Paladin. They're a company that we recently received review units on. One of the review units we got is all metal. It's pretty nice. And a lot of times, if you go with a non-name brand, you can save money. When you want to buy a Sony TV, you pay extra because we call it the Sony tax because it's got the word Sony on the front. And look, Sony makes good stuff, but so does Samsung and LG. So why pay more for the Sony if you can get equivalent or better from a manufacturer that doesn't charge you that name brand tax? In much the same way, Minisforum has a sub-brand called Codlix. Who's ever heard of Codlix? Well, you know what happens when a company is trying to establish itself in a competition filled with other name brand companies? How can they win your business except by lowering the price? So if Codlix is made by Mini PCs or made by Minisforum, you can effectively get that Minisforum quality without paying the Minisforum name brand fees because Codlix isn't known here in the USA, and as a result, they have to lower the price to entice you to buy. So the quality between Codlix and Minisforum is basically the same. But you might be getting more for your money in that range. Also, it depends what you want to use the mini PC for, right? Because they have mini PCs that are far more upgradable, and some are, this big, and some are super tiny, and some are designed for gaming, and some are designed for business. Some you can have a RAID array in, and others you can't. Some you can build a NAS out of, and some you can't. So when it comes to certain categories, then I have different favorites depending on the category. So asking that question is quite complicated. If you ask me what's my favorite topping on a pizza, it depends where we're getting the pizza from. At a certain pizza place, I like it with this topping, but at a different pizza place, I don't like that topping over there. So I'll order it differently. So it's not like saying they're all the same. And so because of that individuality, that's what makes this so awesome, is unless you want to live in the world of Apple computers where everybody's the same, you have all of these options to accommodate your budget, your needs, your expectation, with a variety based on size, upgradability, performance, price, ports. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And then any combination therein, just literally millions of different variables that make all these different combinations possible. Which one's better? The one that you like is the one that's better for you. John Williams mentions they do have autonomous lawnmowers now, just like a Roomba. It'll mow your lawn for you. That's true. I forgot about that. Ryan says he remembers was Zenith was equal to or better than Sony. And Magnavox, where did they go? Starshine mentions they got a Chromebook because it's a bit simpler, but it also has an end date for updates, 2033 in this case. Yeah, they have a 10-year update range, but Those Chromebooks, once they're out of warranty, they're often more expensive to fix than to replace. So if the machine still works and it's still got a good battery life in 10 years, in theory, and of course you can't really save anything to a Chromebook. You've got to live on the cloud, basically. That also means you don't get any viruses. So pros and cons. I think Chromebooks are great for education. When you have kids and you don't want them messing around for remote learning, you give them a Chromebook, and that way you're going to be reducing the odds of them gaming and what they can do with it to to abuse it or get it infected or, break it, that it's going to need a reinstall. Chromebooks are pretty bulletproof in that way because you can't really screw them up. They won't let you. For a power user like me, unacceptable. For an end user that always digs themselves deep into a hole they can't seem to get out of, get them a Chromebook. That'll solve that problem. You can check your email with Gmail. You're not going to be installing Office or Word or Outlook. You're going to be going online and using Google Write and Google Spreadsheets. It's all online. I have a friend of mine who's a software developer, and he loves his Chromebook. He loves it. And he does all of his developing and all his programming connected to a server online. It saves all of his work. Nothing is saved on the Chromebook. So it just runs, it just works. All right, let me take a quick look. Let's take a quick look. Is this thing done yet? What is it doing? Let's go back over. Oh, finally, it's waiting on a reboot. Okay. That's that update took a long time. But I suspect if you look at that knowledge base article and time how long it took to install on your computer, whatever you're running, I know for a fact that update takes a while on every computer. Don't blame the computer for that. We will be offered Windows 1123 H2 automatically in time. It will be offered to us. If we choose not to wait, we can use our own Windows 11 installation media, plug it in, and run setup from within Windows instead of booting from it. And that'll give us an in-place upgrade. When you're done, you're going to have the old version of Windows 11 and the new version. You'll have a windows.old directory. And it's going to take up about 17 gigs of space and temp files, which it will self-delete in 30 days. That gives you the option to uninstall it. I never uninstall it, so I immediately do a disk cleanup and go to clean up system files. And there's an option to delete old Windows installations. And when you check that box, it'll say space to clear. It'll be like 27 gigs. Yes, please give me that space back, especially if you're dealing with, a 512 gig or 1 terabyte storage. That's a significant chunk of it. You will, again, get it back automatically within, after 30 days, it deletes itself. But that's one of those things I'll just go ahead and remove because I never unwind any updates. Okay, we're just about at the 2-hour mark. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. I've not checked the phone the entire broadcast. So let's take a quick look at that, see if I missed anything. And in your last opportunity here to ask any final questions related to mini PCs or this specific one. A very generous Amazon gift card comes from our friend Frankie B. Frankie, thank you so much for your continued support and your generosity. And that looks like it, actually. Now, I've been doing a lot of upgrades to Studio B. We're now encoding AV1 encoding. That means I can compress more data down in the same limited bandwidth I have, which is limited here at Studio B. And I hope the video quality is better and the audio quality should be better. You can let me know what you think. Is it better? Is the video better? Is the audio better? Is it worse? Does it look the same as always? Let me know. I've also ordered a new tripod head. This is really cool. Thanks over to Marcus Pick's YouTube channel for introducing this. I did not know. There's new tripod heads available that you can adjust by turning a knob, and they're gear driven. Normally with a tripod head, a camera, you have this pan and tilt, and you loosen the handle, and the thing just swivels and tilts, and you kind of hold it where you want it and then tighten it. And every time when you tighten it, it kind of moves a little bit. It's maddening. Now, professional filmmakers, they don't do that. Professional filmmakers have gears they turn, and the gears adjust the camera and lock the camera in for the tilt, for the panning. And, you know, they're pricey. They're about $250 per camera head, and I need, or tripod head, and I got 2 of them. So I should be getting one soon. It's just time to start upgrading the studio. You'll see there's now an Intel Arc graphics card in here. I could not do AV1 encoding with an NVIDIA card unless that NVIDIA card was a 40 series. And I'm not gaming. And the Intel card is half the price. And with that AV1 encoding, that means I can compress more data much, much more efficiently. It's massively different in the bandwidth requirements. And it should result in me requiring less bandwidth to use to broadcast. It should also result in a better picture quality, believe it or not. So we're reducing how much bandwidth we need, and at the same time improving the video quality. And the audio quality should also be improved as well. And then what else I did? Oh, my little camera stand here that I use for the overhead shots. This thing is, this is really more ideal for a microphone. You see how low it is? If this was a microphone, it would be the perfect height. But this is as tall as it goes. So I ordered one that's like 5 feet tall. And I hope we'll take this one down and we'll replace it, because this was an experiment and it's working really well, but it's just a little too low to get me the wide enough shot. And I was thinking I could put a GoPro on there to get the wider shot, but then I lose the video quality. So I really want to use that camera. I just basically bought the wrong thing because I didn't know. So now I know what to look for, and I've got that coming, and those are like $100. They're not that expensive. And that's going to put the camera above, way up here where you can't see it. And then we should get a nice wide angle that I can zoom in on if necessary. But with that, you know, you've seen sometimes it's all the way zoomed out. It's pretty much fills the frame like with a motherboard. And I'd like to have a little more than that. And I was hoping I could just buy little added poles that attach to this to extend it, but that does not seem to be the case, unfortunately. So that'll get replaced. And then, of course, if I ever decide I want to have a microphone in front of me, I'll put that away, because maybe I'll start podcasting or something and I'll have it. So finally, just doing more work to Studio B. I also got a giant 49-inch curved screen monitor that I might replace here, but I'm concerned it's too narrow and I won't be able to read it. So I have not had time yet to move that over, but those are on eBay for half price. They're normally $1,200 for the Samsung 49-inch curved screen, and you can pick them up all day on eBay. There's a seller there that sold 260 of them at this point. And I think there's a little imperfection on the top of the frame. It's not on the screen. I don't even care. For half price, for $600, a 49-inch name brand Samsung curved screen monitor. Wow, the thing's massive. It's like the windshield of a Mini Cooper. It's crazy. And I'm thinking I can hang it here on the stand, but then I might have to lower it because it'll block the cameras. Anyway, I'm just doing some work, long overdue work, to improve some things at Studio B. And hopefully you'll notice the difference. But that tripod, to be able to turn the gears and have the tripod move like in Hollywood, the camera will, you turn the gears to have the camera tilt and pan, then it shouldn't be driving me nuts that I always have to keep every time I have to adjust this camera, it requires constant back and forth. Like when Mitch arrives to co-host with me, he's this tall, right? So the camera has to be adjusted to accommodate that. And it's fidgeting up and down, left and right, lock it in. Now it moved a little bit. Up and down, left and right, lock it in. Nope, it moved a little bit. And at some point you kind of throw in the towel and say, good enough. But with the gear mechanism, It's precision. So you just turn it where you want it for your tilt. You turn it where you want it for your pan. It's locked in theory. That's what Marcus Pick says. So that would be an amazing upgrade. I didn't even know such a thing was made for consumer use. So I am super excited to get that. And of course, contributions like that from Frankie are going to make that possible, because that's $250 just for the tripod head. That's not the camera, and that's not the tripod. That's not the microphone or the memory cards. That's just the thing the camera sits on, and that sits on the tripod, and that enables you to pan tilt. Anyway, I'm super excited. I think that's going to arrive tomorrow. Brian says he heard curved screens were discontinued by Samsung. Were they? I don't know. Do you have a link from Samsung? What does the studio look like? Have I ever shown it to the audience? No, because the studio is, it's got to be secured. And due to the harassment that I constantly receive from being a public figure online from anonymous losers who have nothing else better to do, I don't want to expose the assets here in the studio that could result in a theft. So for security reasons, I think it's irresponsible to ask somebody to show you their studio, because if they're not thinking for themselves, they might just end up getting robbed, because people will know exactly what they've got and where it is. And so it's a very unwise thing to ask, and it's a very more unwise thing to answer. Just so you know, it's pretty bad out there. I don't bother anybody, but people have nothing else better to do. I've never done anything to these people, but they attack me as though I killed their dog. I don't know what's going on in the world, but it's a sad state of affairs. David Collins says Samsung discontinued curved screens on TVs, but not necessarily on monitors. Chris's Retro Tech channel confirms that curved TVs from Samsung were discontinued, but curved monitors are still being made by Samsung. There you go. Chris Johnson says, good show today. Thank you to my chat friends, and please enjoy your evening. Thank you to all of you who are members, moderators, and regular viewers to the channel. Thank you for hanging out, all of you in the chat and interacting with me. That's what this is all about. Thank you to Minisforum for sending us these units for review and allowing us to make reviews that are honest, and we're not held to say certain things or to not say certain things. To have that freedom is very unusual for manufacturers to do that. And so we would not have this review if not for Minisforum submitting this to us for free in exchange for an honest review. So that means a lot to me, and I really appreciate them. Also, thanks to our Marlena, our what do I say? Our camera girl, our content manager, Marlena. She's making and designing all the thumbnails and maintaining all the video notes. And if you email the channel, she'll likely be the one who responds. If you look in the About section here on YouTube about this channel, the email address to contact us is right there if you want to reach out. So thanks to her for all of her help and all the hours she's putting in to get us up to speed and make us look a bit more professional. A bit more? A lot more. And of course, remember those discount codes from Acronis, RoboForm, Instant House Call, and VIP CDK deals. They're there, except for Instant House Call. Those discount codes are for the entirety of 2024. With Instant House Call, it might be there for the entirety of 2024. We'll find out. As a reminder, Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call is going to be here on Friday, and we're going to do a live demo of how it works. So I hope you'll join us for that. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks again to our friend Frankie B with that super generous contribution. We will see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.